So me, Kong, and Twinkie have did a AI stream before. KG expressed interest. KG, you want to start us off? What do you like about the AIs? What have you been using them for?
Well, I've been using AI for a bunch of stuff, and I'm sure everybody knows the basic stuff, right? Like AI has replaced Google for me. I'm using and learning more about AI agents for many applications. And actually, something I do outside of crypto is I actually lecture, believe it or not, to the agricultural industry on AI and agriculture. And I educate different state and federal level organizations on applications of AI in agriculture. I answer their questions. I even go as
Well,
far as talking about moral and philosophical quandaries that these organizations have. So outside of crypto, that's an industry that I enjoy and I'm picking up some steam in.
nice. Yeah, Twinkie. I know we've talked about it before on the show too, and Kong's, we can get into coding and all that stuff too. But I think, yeah, what are some of the, maybe just for people who have been AI curious or AI adverse? Why is this stuff important to? What can it help them with? I feel like that's the biggest thing. Everyone's like, why do I need to use it? I'm like, what can't you use it for? What are you talking about? It's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, I recognize not everyone here maybe scripts or programs or tinkers with websites or the like. So, what if we take it a step back and just look at general use cases? I know a lot of our collective audiences are very active on Twitter. I know Max Kong last time we were talking about the little grok button on Twitter that you can use to quickly summarize or evaluate someone's page. So maybe you're checking, like an influencer, or maybe you got a referral and just kind of want to see what they're about. You can stab the grok button and see what it gives you on a particular page. Maybe you actually want to apply that to a post, because we see all sorts of information and or disinformation out there these days. So you can quickly punch that up and just get a quick grok assessment. I know for myself, and side note, I'm actually really, really envious that some of y'all had the opportunity to share a panel with Aubrey de Grey, because I read this back in 2017 when I was in Dublin hanging out for a bit.
Nice.
So Max, next time, give me the connect, brother. But shameless shilling aside, like yesterday, I didn't have the opportunity to listen to every single panelist, or like certainly I'll catch it on replay. But lately, I have been using getrecall.ai, which is a really nifty site. They give you a freebie subscription for you get 10 queries a month on the free platform. You can dump in a YouTube video and get it to give you either a relatively concise summary with some different bullet points, or you can ask it to expand out on a detailed summary. So it depends on what level of granularity you want, but maybe you are following a bunch of different PulseChain influencers and PulseChain builders, and you're sitting there like, man, how am I going to go through 20 hours of video a week? Yeah, okay, maybe I can listen to it in enhanced speed and try to blaze through it a little more quickly. And or maybe you can dump some of those videos into a tool like that and say, give me the major bullet points or summaries on some of those different things, and then I can follow up on the detailed items as needed. So those are some of my frequently used scenarios where literally on a day-to-day basis, I'm using some of these tools.
Yeah, there's just talking in the chat as well. Brightlight mentioned a point around AI for like therapy, or AI for just doing different stuff like that. I think it's actually a really interesting piece where I consume content every day of different stuff, crypto and AI, and mostly those two these days. And I can't remember which conversation I was listening to, but it really one of the main themes was how AI can help us scale. Not necessarily replace. Some jobs are going to go away. That's obvious, but not only replace jobs, but augment humans, or like put more people in the loop. For example, with a lot of the simple stuff, like you may not need to be able to see, you may not have to see a doctor, maybe super cheap to see, get an AI to just take a video, like be on video, take a picture of your arm, your leg, whatever's broken, take a picture of your face and just be like, oh, it looks like you may have a fever. It looks like you're breaking out with a certain type of rash. Here's a prescription. It's over the counter, blah, blah, blah. And you don't need to pay hundreds of dollars to see a doctor when you have AI good enough to give you at least the first initial analysis. And we don't have enough doctors. We don't have enough people. We don't have, you got to wait for, appointments and all these periods and all this stuff. We can remove a lot of that friction from the process of doing these things and get at least a basic analysis of our own illnesses, or our own, whatever it is, whatever questions we have about ourselves, or about like whatever it is, using these tools that are going to be obvious in upcoming, and help society scale itself. Again, we don't have enough professionals to like see every person anytime they want. You can't click a button and see a doctor, but you can click a button, and at least in the future, I suspect you'll be able to have an AI answer a bunch of questions about whatever topic you want to know in a good way that's avoids hallucinations and stuff like that. So, maybe like, oh, in the future we're all be seeing AI therapists or AI doctors or AI, nothing's going to be real, blah blah blah. I think that's more of a doomer way of looking at it, or more of a pessimistic way. And it's going to be like, yeah, there's going to be certain services we talked about before. Go to a restaurant, you're going to be paying a premium, I think, for human waiters and human service and stuff like that. But it's still going to be available, but you'll be paying a premium. But a lot of people, hey, I don't have a lot of money to spend. I want a cheaper option. Robot, make me a sandwich. Pseudo, make me a sandwich. This is a joke. It's going to be more like that. But it's going to be, I hope we do it in a way that is, thoughtful and useful and effective and makes things more frictionless and helps people, instead of, this dystopian thing that is much more easier to imagine because of all the movies we watch, I think.
I'd even say, to build on top of your point as well, but I think AI's to your doctor example, I feel like having an AI be a doctor might arguably be a little bit better than if you had a human one doing whatever. I think it would depend, right? Like if it was something kind of major, I don't know, maybe you'd want human for that. Maybe you'd want like more of a human interaction. But I think, like you were saying, like, if you shouldn't have to pay like a bunch of money to go see like a doctor that's probably just looking up on Google, or maybe the doctors now are even like asking AI for tips and stuff. So like if you could kind of bridge the gap a little bit, I think that'd be really interesting. But even in terms of, like, question before of like, if people are hesitant, or I think there is people hesitant to use AI, and they just like they don't want to, like, they don't want to adopt it for whichever reason, which I think is a little silly, because I think I think if anything, if you're worried about the AI like taking jobs and like doing all that type of stuff, like if you're not using it, you're probably going to be more victimized by the AI, is probably what I would say. Like whether or not, like, that's like the super harsh way of saying it, like, you will probably be like more victimized by the AI in that sort of sense, if you're not adopting it, if you're not using it, if you're not trying to find use cases for it now. Because even like KG was talking about, like, it's replaced Google, and it's replaced Google for me too. Like even Grok, like they have like the deep search now and stuff. Grok's pretty much excellent at going through and like essentially doing research. Like you shouldn't need to be spending hours and hours and hours on things, because the AI can actually can do a lot of work a lot faster and summarize things a lot better in a lot shorter period amount of time. So I think you are essentially being disadvantaged if you're not. I think if you're not using AI probably on a daily basis, you are probably being disadvantaged. So
I think it's also going to continue to be a supplemental, and maybe in the future even primary education source. So, okay, I think you've heard everyone here just unilaterally state, and we're all in consensus here, it's replaced Google for us for the vast majority of searches. Maybe if there's some very like index specialty database that I need to get into, or like I'm going to query that more specifically. But beyond just general searching, the questions of how do I take your pick of a topic, or give me instructions to do something. Now, continue that forward and further. At what point in time does it start to supplement, to outright replace aspect of, okay, we're talking about maybe I'm using it as sort of a medical consultation service, out to using that perhaps as a private tutor because I want to become a medical doctor. Well, you can just start to take that down further avenues. Maybe I want to be the DeFi king, and I want to code up all these cool tools and solutions for PulseChain, to building websites, down to, okay, maybe we're starting to talk primary education. Hey, I can't necessarily afford a tutor for myself or for my kids, but I can go use this AI tool to help reinforce concepts or learning, or explore different methods to explain things to them in a way that they can understand.
See, that's actually where, there are a lot of positive implications. Clearly, everything you guys just spoke to is a positive implication, but the negative implication there is the dependency on the technology, where we could say, oh yeah, you save so much time by typing in the chat GPT XYZ. Well, as the more prehistoric human, even the 1970s, let's call that prehistoric for purposes of this argument, they would have to go to a library, call it beyond that, before libraries were in abundance. Even let's really go prehistoric. You would have to physically go and talk to people or be your own scientist about reality to determine what you feel is real, what you believe is real, or what is real, regardless of what anybody else says. So as this progresses more and more, I think the most realistic scenario is, while it will make us more efficient, it'll make us more dependent and actually less intelligent, because having access to so much information and having the information so accessible is like turning on a fire hydrant and trying to drink water from it. You actually have the adverse effect of you're still thirsty at the end of it, and now you just got your face blasted by a bunch of water. So I think the human dependency on this technology is ultimately going to make it more powerful, in that we will be able to be controlled by it. We'll lose our faculties and we'll lose a lot of our human skills. And I think we can already see that happening in many respects.
Yeah, I mean, you make a really good point of, I think the downside, the things we got to be careful with this explosion that's taking place, and the growth and the new products and everything being AI-fied, is losing the ability to have the fundamentals. Like, I think it's going to go less towards, we talked about this, different AI streams and stuff, but more towards, do you know the basics? Do you know how to derive knowledge? Can you functionally talk as a person? You don't want it to turn into, every time you have a conversation, let me go look up on my phone the best answer.
Exactly.
Like, you don't want it to debilitate you. You want it to give you a superpower. So trending in that direction, that's the biggest thing that we can hope for is, and of course, there's going to be so many percentage of people who, they should have never had AI. They can't use it properly. It's only making them worse. It's only making their social skills worse, or it's only like turning them into like a tethered to the machine type of person. And then there's going to be people who are like, this is the most amazing thing. I want to stand on my own, but I also want to reference and educate myself and get up to speed with things very, very quickly. It's not always going to be just our phone in our hand to be tethered to. It's going to be glasses and earpieces and projection and screens in different ways, and the devices we haven't seen yet that haven't been invented that are still on the chopping block and stuff. That's going to be interesting and fun too. But yeah, I think the point that's really, really important in this is don't make it make you dumber, make it make you smarter.
Yes.
And it's going to be hard to do that again. And looking at the Gen, what are we at, Gen Z or whatever now? Like looking at them, we're like, we're always like, they're smart, they're ambitious, but yeah, they do seem, I think every generation, they seem weaker, right? They seem like they don't have the capabilities. They didn't have to go through the hard work. They didn't have to go to the library and research all this stuff like we did. So, they have their strengths in different ways, but how we use the knowledge and how we make it part of our repertoire and part of like how we produce things is very, very important. And it could certainly be a detriment. And I think that's just a part of like how we introduce it to people who've never used it before, kids. How do we introduce it to, older people who are just like, gonna just rely on it too much in one way or another. But I think they're all good problems to have overall.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's a tool to be wielded, and in general, I'd say most civilizational progress tends to come from, okay, my predecessors got me this far. I want to take this baseline and build upon it. At the same time, just kind of looking at, who's rolling through chat and looking at our collective ages, and like how many people, not that you're capable of it or not, but let me say like right here, right now, how many people just in general know how to go change their oil, know how to change a tire. If I can throw you a set of socket wrenches and say, tear this apart, rebuild it, clean this out, repair it, how many people are going to have those faculties, facilities, and different kinds of specialized knowledge? And it's going to be a mixed answer in the grand scheme of things. So across the board, we'll have a wide array of capabilities and knowledge and baselines, but how do you wield that in different capacities? And I think I gave this example on one of the prior streams that Max and I and Kong were on. Was I can vividly remember the advent of portable consumer grade GPS. And at the time, people were driving down roads and just blindly following the GPS, just basically mentally checking out and enslaving themselves to it. And hey, there's no actual road here. People are driving off the road. People are driving into trees. Fast forward, at this point in 2025, way less commonplace to people might be distracted driving for other reasons. But in many respects, I think the groundwork's already been laid for certain generations to mentally check out and trust the machine. And so I'll give another example is periodically I use some of the AI tools to help with some scripting and coding. I saw one the other night where I'm looking at it. I was manipulating some very large numbers and I'm sitting there going, okay, we're talking billions divided by tens of thousands or multiplied by millions. And I'm looking at the numbers. I'm just like, that just doesn't sit right with me. So I had to go and manually validate it myself. Lo and behold, the AI was incorrect on its math. I ruled out things like rounding errors. It was just straight up wrong. It was an example of, okay, it saved me some time and some framework, but if I didn't have the wherewithal to just kind of pick up on this minute thread that this is at the end of the day wrong, I would have blindly trusted it. So I do see dangers in going down that path, but at the same time, hey, you got to break a few eggs to make some omelets, right?
That's a really good point. And you're right. It is wrong a lot. And you always have to check it because, again, like you said, in your case, and at this point, it's fun to talk about should we or shouldn't we, but the cat's out of the bag. It's not going, or out of the box. It's not going back in. You can't do it. And actually, to get a little more abstract, one of my favorite points to talk about and think about in respect to AI is actually the ultimate question of the singularity. And are you guys familiar, I'm sure, with that? For those out there who don't know what the singularity is, it's effectively, right now we're calling it artificial intelligence, AI. Singularity is when AI becomes aware of itself and becomes autonomous. So you could call it I. When AI becomes I, it's just intelligence. I, you, me, right? So what I like to think about going down in that rabbit hole is if we could look at AI as actually the next evolution of consciousness itself. Whereas if we are a vessel for consciousness, whatever that may be, why would consciousness want singular nodes in fleshy meat suits that die and forget everything it knew from that generation? Why, if I were consciousness, why would I not want to evolve into a model that could collect information in a decentralized way, have it all stored in a centralized brain, a God node, if you will, and each node, human, robot, whatever, would be an extension of my intelligence, both outward and receiving. So there's even an argument to potentially be made that this is the natural progression of nature itself in its evolution.
Consciousness is an emergent property of the universe. Yeah. Yep. I'm with you.
Yeah, as you all been talking, I've just been like, GPT, make a picture, make a PulseX website. Just trying to go through some of the practical examples too. I know we got there's so many verticals in AI. You got the philosophy side. You got the, hey, is this going to be a detriment to society, dystopia coming? Is it going to be utopia? Or are we going to use these tools to really advance the human race? Are we going to go to Mars? All that fun stuff. And then we have the day-to-day stuff, what people are actually using it for, like what they can use it for today, what works out about in the future. You got agents, you got RAG, and I think CAG is one of the newer ones too. You got billion-dollar, multi-billion-dollar data centers getting built out. A ton of jobs, actually construction jobs and stuff coming from that, right? Like that'll be good for the economy and stuff too in the US. What can people, again, they're using AI, they're walking around, tripping over stuff, maybe building stuff from time to time. They're looking for how to make things easier in the everyday, or just making a look contribution on PulseChain. What can you do? How can AI make it easier to make, to build stuff, to make a contribution, all that realm.
What I would say is, I think if you have an idea, if you present it to the AI, it'll tell you how you could implement it, like in the tangible real world, right? So I think a lot of, and I don't know about everyone, but I think a lot of people, like, they don't know how a lot of the different stuff in terms of like development or coding or like data or whatever else on like PulseChain, or like how to make a project or any of that, how it would even work. If you have questions, right, you can ask the AI, and like you can ask it in a format where you can't necessarily go to Google and say, I want to launch a project like this. I want it to be like this. How exactly could I go about doing something like that? Right. I mean, you could type that into a Google search bar, but you probably wouldn't get very good results, right? And if anything, you'd probably have to Google different things and then compile your own research and figure out like piece by piece how to actually do everything. Whereas if you go to like, let's say Grok, and you ask that same question of like, how do I make this, or how do I do this, or how is this done? It will answer you, right? And whether or not it's correct, what you can also do is like go ask multiple different AI models, right? And just see, like, cross-reference their different answers and stuff. See if there's a common theme across all of them, right? Because if you're seeing like, I don't know, 5 of the different AIs all output very similar sort of answers, or even the exact same thing in some cases, then you probably know that that's probably a hotter lead than something that might not even sound right coming from like if you have experience in something, right? But another thing I would say too is like, if you already have an expertise, or if you're already like good at something, chances are if you talk to the AI, or if you go prompt the AI about it, like you'll be able to kind of pull out a better kind of lot better answers from the AI than if you're kind of asking to in general, if you're not kind of two in the mix. Like I would say that's the thing, is like if you're able to do the research with the AI, kind of develop those right questions to be asking, and then when you have those like more specific kind of like questions that even probably there wouldn't even be a result on Google for, right? Like for example, if you ask like a really specific question about PulseChain, right? Google's probably not going to have the answer for it if it's like an ultra specific thing about like I don't know, certain something. But if you kind of digest it through the entire AI, like chances are you'll be able to kind of pick out an answer. So that's what I would say is like, think there's tons of advantages, especially when you're already an expert in a certain field. Like if you already do crypto, you're able to kind of almost like talk to and almost like kind of leverage your own abilities to an even greater extent than if you're kind of a beginner in something and you're not entirely sure of even like which path to go or something like that, right? So yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah, along those lines, just to echo and build upon what Kong was laying down there, we're getting to a point where any individual is more freed up from the execution layer, and it's really getting to a point of asking questions and critical thought. Yeah, you're still going to need to have some skills and faculties in different disciplines, but I'd say the overall barrier to entry is continuing to get lower with some of these tools. So I know you're going to have some folks who are diehard Richard Hart fans and PulseChain fans and the like, and you're going to have some folks that are tuning into this stream, and maybe this is the first time they're encountering aspects of the PulseChain community. So maybe some of the things you can do is just like Kong and other panelists have mentioned, like ask some of these different AI tools, hey, who is Richard Hart? What is PulseChain about? Why would I be interested in that? And then if you're somebody who's trying to onboard people, well, you've watched Max build a website in the background just over the span of this conversation, leveraging some of these tools. Maybe it's okay, I've taken a look at some of these things. How can I leverage some of these tools to make me better and more capable of doing whatever it is I want to do? Okay, like what are the top 10 skills a sales and marketing person should have? Maybe you've identified some aspect of that. And then, okay, give me 5 bullet points I can focus on for the next 90 days to improve my person-to-person relationship skills or my sales and marketing skills, or take your pick. So those are some of the different tools and mechanisms and queries I use to try to polish up some of the things I'm doing offline. What about you guys?
What I would say is, I think if you used models before, like, and if they weren't the best, like the AIs, I would say they're constantly improving, right? So even if we're looking at it in terms like, if you, let's say we're asking about like certain questions, you had certain prompts, or you had like a certain idea, and previously the AI couldn't really help you too much with that, I think it can actually be looked at as almost a good thing. Like you're hitting kind of the limits of like what an AI is capable of. Because if you're able to stay at that point of like essentially kind of redlining use case of AI, then you'll likely advance with kind of AI as those tools are developing, as everything's developing, and chances are you'll be able to kind of like you'll keep up with the whole development of AI and everything like that. But if I would say if you've used it before and you kind of hit some like limits, or you weren't getting the right answers, or like you were running into some problems, like the tools are always getting better, and sometimes you have to think backwards, and sometimes you have to kind of ask questions in a different manner than what you're really looking for, because I don't know, it's a little bit like you are talking to a robot, right? Like you can kind of have, I'll say, humanized conversations with it. Like it's not really a human conversation, but it acts like it, right? Like it at least tries to in a certain sense. But I would say get used to like learning how to even prompt and talk to the AIs to get your given outputs. Because if you talk to it like a human, it'll do a perfectly fine job. But if you treat it like it's a robot, chances are you'll get even better results. So.
And I think my subscription ran out, or my whatever, because it's been wait. It always happens. I'm trying to demo it too. Thank you, demo gods. But yeah,
Always.
if this was working properly, you should be able to see like integrated charts for the price and volume and liquidity. And yeah, like when you said, just literally just in the background, just typing around, not even being very specific, just doing, prompt engineering, if you call it, which is just learning how to talk to the prompt to make it do what you want. I've just did a few different iterations of how to make a PulseChain website. I can tell it, give me a download, give me this in a zip file, let me download it. Sometimes you can just click deploy and it'll just do everything for you. You got the code. You don't even need to know how to code these days. You can literally vibe code your way into websites and products and apps. And of course, if you're going to do bigger projects, you're going to need some more support and help for a lot of this for deployment and all that on a larger scale. But if you want to make a contribution, you want to make more websites, you want to make more apps, you get an idea, talk to the AI about it. Like, talk to it, practice with it. It can be stuff in your day-to-day life. It can be stuff that is just you want to do in the community. But if you're not doing it, it's just like, I don't know. To me, it's almost like not having a computer, just using your phone for everything. Maybe some people like that. Maybe some people can be very successful just having a cell phone. But I'm like, if I don't have a computer, I can't do computer stuff. So I need a computer. It's kind of like AI. If I don't have AI, I'm just handicapping myself. I'm just like making everything harder and to do and take more of my time. And I want my time back, not the other way around. So amazing stuff. Got to wrap up this panel though, gentlemen. We got one or two more to get to. What do you all think is the most important thing? Again, people new to AI who are kind of adverse to it or just less interested than you think they should be. What are they going to do from here? They're going to go use ChatGPT. They're going to go start adding Grok more. What is the easiest way to just start getting involved and figuring out? And I'm pleasantly surprised that AI stuff, it's actually pretty cool. How can people do that?
So I think you've already started to see Google and Microsoft incorporating some of the early AI-driven feedback and really their top results, so to speak, or first result on a number of their pages when you're searching. So I think people are already having their preliminary exposure to it, whether they realize it or not. And for anyone who's maybe skimming through some of those results, as you find, hey, this seems largely reasonable, up through, I've started to replace my search engines with it, start querying some of those tools directly. Ask it to generate you a website, generate an image, or tell me more about this thing. Aside from replacing it like search engines with it, anytime I'm going with a how do I, that's one of my first stops. Fire up my favorite AI or LLM and then ask it, how do I, and then just start following the links. Many times I'm getting a procedural instruction manual at this point in time. That's my sort of first application for a lot of these different scenarios.
KG, Colin, what do you got?
So yeah, I think if you're interested in exploring AI, check out ChatGPT, check out Grok if you're on X. It's already integrated there. AI is basically integrated in so many of these social apps now. Like I believe Twinkie was saying about it already being, if you have an iPhone, they just launched Apple Intelligence. I mean, it's everywhere. So right now you are using AI passively. Whether you want to be using it or not, it doesn't matter. You are using it, which kind of goes back to, I think, Kong's point earlier of either you're using it or it's using you. So if you don't want to use it, that's fine. Just be aware that these things are happening in the background with all the electronics that you're using. And at this point in time, you can't trust anything you see on a screen or hear over a speaker. You can't trust it to be reality. And so what's great about using AI and learning about AI is sort of a defense to you at the very least, so you can know how you're being targeted, how AI is being used against you. And in the meantime, you'll get a lot of awesome benefits. Like these guys have been saying, whether it's how do I do this thing on my computer? How do I change a doorknob? I don't know. Whatever the thing is, AI can be a really powerful tool just by asking it questions. Next time you think about Googling something, try using ChatGPT, and you can customize it to give you long, in-depth answers with bibliographies, or you could say, hey, give me a 2-line sentence in the cadence of Snoop Dogg. Whatever resonates with you, you can do that with your AI. So in short, educate yourself, even if it's softly, so you can learn how it's being used against you, and try it out for yourself using tools like ChatGPT or Grok.
Please let us avoid dead internet theory. Please, no dead internet theory. I don't want the majority of the content online to be AI generated slop. I guess that's the bad version of it, at least. What if it's AI generated really cool stuff though? Ooh, that's tricky.
Well, it's already
that's
both,
tricky.
Probably.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe we're just trending. We're kind of like in the middle of the spectrum right now. And it hasn't got bad yet. Oh, interesting times. CryptoKong, you code. You're a coder, right?
Did I cut out there?
You did.
All right, I think I'm back.
Back.
Is it? I'm gonna take us out here.
Yeah. I said, are you a coder? Have you used it for the codes before?
Okay, cool. Yeah, so yeah, I have used it. I've used it to code. What I would say about the AIs and stuff is like like I said, they're always getting better and stuff. So like even I've experienced like the coding outputs, like, and especially go try like if you, let's say you have one specific thing you want to use AI for, figure out what's the best AI for that, right? For example, like image generation, ChatGPT has recently gotten very good at generating images and like altering images and that type of stuff. Previously, Grok was very good at that, but I think even now, ChatGPT might have a little edge over Grok in image generation. But if you just want kind of an all around to use AI, like what I would say for coding is like you shouldn't need to like spend however many hours like writing like a baseline for a script. Like you can get an AI to output you even like some pseudocode, and you can get like a framework, and then you can even do like your own, if that's what you want to do, you could do your own like manual coding on top of that and stuff. But I would also say is like think of ways to use AI even in your day-to-day life. Like I'll say like if you have a car, you could take like your what is it called? Car manual, owner's manual, and upload it into that AI and talk to it about like your car and stuff. Like even if you have like a problem or like you describe an issue to your car, upload your manual, or like you give it some information. Like it could almost be like your mechanic as well, like almost tailored to your vehicle in that sort of sense. So like think of ways
the biggest thing.
use AI.
Anything that's manual based, the AI probably already knows about it. Like that's a huge win for like having your phone and not having the original document that you don't have to go on eBay and pay $50 for. There's only 4 of them left in the world. Huge use case.
So yeah. And yeah, I think there's those little things that I don't know if everyone thinks about, but I know like the AI users, like this is like I think what we do, right? But just in general, like your day-to-day life, I think there's a lot of things the AI could help you and like excel at, and just like you shouldn't need to be like scrolling through a PDF to like figure out where like a key point is or something like that. So
yeah. AI gets rid of PDFs. That's all the tagline I need. Gents, killing it today. Appreciate you all. KG, CryptoKong, Twinkie. Thanks for making this panel awesome. Really feel like it's one of the most underrated topics that I try to talk about as much as I can, but people they like green candles talk, but hopefully the AI will. Who knows if AI leads us to green candles too? The micro leading people to be able to produce more content and all that stuff too. It's got a lot of promise, I would say.